John was working in his science lab, got blasted by gamma rays. Now he's smash trivia John, always smashing. He's friends with Ruffalo, crushing on Maslany, and also Sydney Sweeney. John's here saying, hello my gamma friends, welcome to the show, the Gamma Analysis Podcast.
Smash.
Hello, my Gamma friends. Today, I'm going to interview, which is my first time ever or actually getting to interview someone in the entertainment industry. I'm going to interview my friend, Rebecca Attacks from TikTok. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. What I'm going to interview her about is this indie comedy TV show that she's is part of called Upstaged stage. So which is I'm pretty at least from what I believe it's people can still donate to help the show happen, right? Is that right?
Yes, we will be taking donations throughout the process. We just finished principal photography, but there's still all of the post-production process that has to happen, all of the editing, any sort of color correction, audio issues. Maybe they have to bring us back in for ADR, that sort of thing. So we will be fundraising until it's out, basically.
Okay. So to all my listeners, I will both have a link in the description to the Upstaged website, and also you can just look up Upstaged on Google. But make sure when you're typing that in on Google to put parentheses around the word up, so because there are other things called Upstaged that exist.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You got the little parentheses there, and you'll be golden.
So, my first question is, what's Upstaged about?
Okay, so Upstaged is an 8-episode mockumentary style series. Think mockumentary style like The Office or Parks and Rec. So imagine we're in a theater. This is a theater company that is struggling because of COVID, like all theater companies basically did, and a ton of businesses did. So this is a struggling theater company who has invited a documentary crew to come in and watch the production of a play. Now, are you familiar with the play Equus?
No, I'm not. I don't know about many plays, to be
No,
honest.
that's okay. If you recall at all, quite a few years ago, Daniel Radcliffe, after being in Harry Potter, or maybe in between, he was in a Broadway production, I believe it was Broadway, but Equus, which he was famously nude in that play because there are nude scenes in Equus. It's about a guy who's like obsessed with horses. It's a
Interesting,
thing.
but that's actually like I find very interesting because like that's actually because I wondered as someone who's never gone to many plays in my life. There's literally only one I've gone to, which is the Beetlejuice musical. Like I've actually I've wondered to myself like, are they allowed to have nudity in plays?
Oh yeah, you can have you just have to say that you're going to have nudity. There's I've seen 2 plays with nudity. So I've seen
Interesting.
Equus. I did not see Equus with Daniel Radcliffe in it though, but and then there's another play called Blasted by Sarah Kane, and that has nudity. That is basically like a horror thriller play. It's very interesting. But yeah, you can have nudity. You just have to you gotta put it on the thing like, hey, there's gonna be nudity.
I don't mind there being nudity. I like seeing nudity and things, but I was just I've always wondered about because like it's such an interesting thing to me that because it is a live performance, and that's I feel
Mhm.
like that's different from like if it was a movie theater.
Yes. So, and it's interesting as an actor because when so when you have any sort of intimate scenes, scenes that involve nudity or just scenes where you are being intimate with somebody, you will typically on set have an intimacy
Mhm.
coordinator, somebody who helps you through the process because you're not just getting on stage and taking your knickers off. Like you're not doing that, right?
Yeah.
It's everything is choreographed. Every you're made sure that you're in a comfortable scenario, things like that. So it's very it's a job. That's the
Mhm.
thing. Like it's different for the actor, but it is a little bit different on set than on stage because when you have nudity on a film set, you can have a closed set where
Yeah.
you film your nude scenes or your intimate scenes with just the bare bones of people that need to be there.
Mhm.
But on stage, people are watching you. People are
Yeah.
watching you be vulnerable in front of them. So it's a very it's not an experience that I've had being nude on stage, but I've had many friends who have been, and it can be a very vulnerable
Mhm.
experience.
I bet. And I hope that they also have intimacy coordinators for live shows.
We know they will have intimacy coordinators for the rehearsal process of plays, and I'm assuming they have people making sure that you're not trying to touch the actors. That would be wild, like security.
Mhm.
But I would assume that also for big productions that there were intimacy coordinators backstage and things like that, just to make sure that everything's going smoothly and you feel comfortable with the whole situation.
Which I cannot stress this enough. Every production, whether it's movies or plays, there should be an intimacy coordinator, and it's sad that there's people in Hollywood who don't want intimacy coordinators.
Intimacy coordinators are wonderful. I used an intimacy coordinator when I was in a play called Dominatrix on Trial, which I played a real life dominatrix. It was it was about a very famous dominatrix in Canada, and we had intimacy coordinators in rehearsals because there was very brief nudity, not from me, but from some of the other people on set. But it was more about the content of what we were rehearsing. It was the fact that I had a riding crop and I was um like I wasn't actually whipping people, but it was very like I was whipping near them and things like that.
Mhm.
People had to like seductively take my boots off and things like that. So there was an intimacy coordinator for that show because of all of that content. You're very vulnerable, you're very stripped down for those types of things.
Mhm.
It's not just nudity, it's about what you're doing. I had an intimacy coordinator on set for Upstage because I had a kissing scene. So I asked for an intimacy coordinator. I had a whole makeout scene. Want to make sure that it is a job and that there's
Yeah,
no surprises.
yeah, definitely. So my next question, as you basically already answered, since my next question was gonna be, are there any comedies that either inspired the show or that you feel that it's similar to tonally? Which you basically already answered that. So then I guess the next thing is, what drew you to join this project?
So I will be honest and say that since I'm not a famous actor, I auditioned for pretty much everything. um,
Understandable.
but Upstaged was this really special project because it was filmed in a city not too far from where I live, and it it only hired actors and crew from from Windsor and then the surrounding area. So it was this wonderful opportunity where so the showrunners were giving these opportunities to the local talent who probably would not get a lead role yet
Mhm.
in a TV show somewhere else just because most of us were not haven't been in a million things. Nobody ever goes, like, oh, Rebecca, I saw her in haunted hospitals. Like, you know what I mean? That's not
Yeah.
happening. So this was just this wonderful opportunity for all of these local artists to get to work all summer on a show, whether you're acting or you're in the crew. It was just this opportunity that I couldn't pass up at all. And I knew some of the people who were involved with the project, and I had worked with them in the past. So I just knew that it was going to be a good environment and a good
Yes.
opportunity. So I was like, I'm going to audition for that.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
glad I did.
awesome. That's what I want to ask is this show, is this, and like, for like the way it's filmed, is this is it filmed sort of like how you'd expect a sitcom of like, it's always pointed in one direction and action, or is it like something where it's like this full 360 around set sort of thing?
So we didn't have like a set, like a fake house, a fake place. Like we filmed in a real theater, we filmed in a real restaurant, things like that. So you will get that 360, but some of the shots were done in one take where it, like theater, you had to know your lines front to back and do it perfect in one take because they were only doing one camera. The idea for the show is that there are two cameramen who are filming this theater
Mhm.
company. And so there are some scenes where you will get multiple angles. My cats just push things out, push things over. There are scenes where we get multiple angles of different angles of the space that we're in, but it's very much that, that these cameramen following people
Mhm.
around. So you will get a little bit of feel closer to like the British office, but there
Okay.
are so there's that feeling, but also we have this thing called like confessionals where, like in the office or Parks and Rec, you have these inserts in the show where people are sitting down looking right at
Mhm.
the camera and then say something about
Yeah.
what just happened in the scene. So you have that as well.
Literally,
Um,
basically a fictionalized version of what we're doing right now.
Basically, yeah.
uh,
It was an interesting experience. I come from a theater background, so the one take scenes were okay for me because I'm used to that. I'm used to doing an entire show. You only get
yeah.
you get one try a night, right?
Yeah.
So I was used to sort of that sort of scene. Um, but yeah, you kind of get to get a little bit of both there.
Okay. Interesting. Um, Next question, and not particularly about out upstage, but about you is what made you want to get into acting in general?
I have always loved acting. Interestingly enough, I didn't really do it when I was little. I I I I moved more toward music, so I went to school for music, but I was still always drawn to acting. So I decided to move more into musical theater. And then I moved out of musical theater for no reason other than um, I just wanted to start doing kind of your straight plays. So no singing. And then I moved from that to film. So
Let's see.
that was, yeah, I always loved it. There's something so exhilarating about being on stage. And there's just there's something magical about that. There's something magical about embodying another character, especially with Upstaged. I was the same person for 3 months. I played the same person, and I spent time building her character. I read the script, I knew who she was, but I had to still decide, why does she do the things she does. So it's just this really magical thing where you can build and grow this character. You make up things about them that maybe aren't for anybody but for you. Just these little things that you're like, well, this matters to me as I'm building the character, but nobody's going to ask me about it in the show, but it gives me more depth for the character for how I'm reacting to things. So it's just magical. I don't know. I have always thought that acting just brings me true joy.
Now, personally, I'm someone who I would love to be able to get into acting at some point. Is there any advice you could give to like people who are just starting into or wanted to start getting into acting?
Absolutely. So you don't have to get a university degree like in acting. You can start out with just auditioning for like a show, a play. Typically, a lot of the actors you'll see will have started out in theater and then moved to film.
Hmm.
Theater is what I would consider like ballet, right? Like that base that gives you that teaches you some of the skills that you'll then learn that then you'll then use in film and other types of acting. But honestly, community theater, you audition and typically you usually get started out in chorus unless you're just absolutely phenomenal on the spot, then you'll get a part. And then with community theater, it's nice they teach you as you go. The director will work with you and hone your craft. Other than that, you can take acting classes. Usually each city will have acting classes through their local theater company, things like that. But yeah, I usually try to do that, as well as you can audition for short films that are being done by film students because it's unpaid work, but it gets you in front of a camera and it helps you learn what to do in front of a camera. So there's kind of it's multifaceted. Get that sort of core for like acting abilities, and then you still have to just keep learning and growing no matter where you're going. Like get that core
Oh,
first.
all right, interesting. Thank you. Um, next thing I want to ask is, are there any funny stories you have from set?
Oh gosh, probably a million.
Anything
There
you could actually share.
for sure. So there was this, I had to record audio for this scene that was a sex scene. Of course, I was, again, intimacy coordinator. I was by myself. I was not with anybody. I was not with the person who I was recording the audio, like who would have been the other part of the audio. It was just me. And I was just like, I don't know what to say. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, the only thing that came to mind was hot dog. So it became the running joke to just be like, hot dog. And it was really sweet. One of my scene partners on our last day of filming, which was yesterday, she came in and she gave me a friendship bracelet that she made and it said hot dog on it. And then, of course, we spent most of our time going, hot dog, digging it out, like the Mickey Mouse.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
it was a funny time. It's it's just kind of a fun vibe on set anyway. Everybody's weird. The best thing about being on set with a bunch of actors is that you're all weird. So yeah, you're just weird. One of my good friends and another one of my scene partners, um, we talked about how we couldn't be in the same room together because he left us in the same room together. We were like 12-year-olds and we would just like just to say random things when we were supposed to be being quiet. We also both have ADHD, so it was like you put us in a room together and we're like, no, you can't. We were just constantly quoting movies, singing. We sang a lot because a lot of people were also musical theater people. But yeah, it was fun. The hot dog was probably the funniest one. Oh, I also said wowza in that one because I was like, it was like nobody there is that uncomfortableness of doing that.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh gosh. Then the other thing I did was I started going, let's see if I can do it now. I was like, what? Obviously I don't think they're going to use that, but I was like,
uh, next question I have is, you're telling me before we started that you've been in previous films and shows. So, what are some different previous films and shows that you've been in?
yeah, absolutely. So this summer before Upstage started, I had just wrapped a Christmas film. So it's a comedy Christmas movie that was like loosely based on A Christmas Carol, so the three ghosts and everything. So that was cool. I played a comedic role in that. Um, for things that are actually like out for viewing purposes, I was in a couple episodes of Haunted Hospitals, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's a TV show where people come on and they talk about real paranormal experiences that they had while in a hospital. And then you have reenactors who act out scenes in the hospital. So I went up to like Toronto and Hamilton for that kind of stuff. And I was like a reenactor, lots of screaming. There was one scene where I had to give birth, and I have no children, so I'm like, well, I'm gonna wing it. I've seen people give birth on TV. I know how this works. But it was all really cool. And some short films. I have a short horror film that is making its way around festivals right now called This Tuesday's Child, which is pretty cool. Once that's out of festivals, they'll probably put it on YouTube or something. But yeah, and then I've got some stuff in the works right now. I'm upcoming. I'm in two short horror films that there will be like Kickstarters for those eventually. I'm not sure when. And then I also write, and I'm trying to get at least one of my short horror films made, and we're shooting for the spring to make that.
Interesting. That's next question, and I think this is probably a big one. Is do you guys have any idea when Upstaged will release?
I'm not really sure about that. They were hoping for December, but they do have to go through the whole post-production process. They're also going through a process of looking like for a distributor.
Mhm.
So they've hired somebody on to pitch the show, to show the show and pitch it
Mhm.
to different places. So it could very well be picked up by some place, or it could go on Tubi. I have no idea. They wanted it to be for December, but especially if it gets picked up by a distributor, you don't know when the
Understandable.
distributor will want it to go out. If the showrunners put it out themselves, then that's when they were shooting for December.
Okay. Um, the next question is there a meaning behind the parentheses around the word up in the title? And if that's a spoiler, feel free to not answer. I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
Honestly, I don't even really know. That's I have no idea about that, and now I feel silly about that. We all just call it upstaged. We don't. It's not like we really think about the parentheses. I'm sure it has a meaning. I didn't create the show,
Mhm.
so I'll have to ask them. Maybe
Okay.
maybe I'll just text them, and then like I'll just message you that I'll message you one day like this is what it means. I found out. I found out.
Oh,
Maybe I should
oh.
have just lied and said, "Oh no, you definitely have to watch the show to find out." Yes, you gotta watch the show.
Oh man. Well, the next question I want to ask are, um, who are some inspirational actors and actresses for you?
Ooh, so when I think about really powerful performances, I do think about Toni Collette. She puts her all into performances. She's just such a oh gosh, she's a wonderful actor, and everything she does just feels completely real, full of emotion. I think about her performance in Hereditary. It's huge. She's phenomenal in that when she's keening on the ground in that one scene. I'm sobbing with her because it feels so real. And then she even has that scene in The Sixth Sense, the car scene, where she's talking about her dad and everything, and how she always wanted him to see her dance. It's so raw. It's so beautiful. I think she just does a really fabulous job with that. And then I would say, this one's going to sound funny, but I'm going to say Bruce Campbell. And why Bruce Campbell is that he has talked so much about how if you want to act, you have to make your own opportunities because not everybody is just going to cast you. That's people, especially when you're nobody. Because again, nobody goes, "Oh, Rebecca, I saw her in Dark Side of the Ring." Like it's, I'm still not anybody except in my area, so it's harder for me
And in our
to get
TikTok
cast.
community.
Oh yeah, well, look, our TikTok community, it was like we all besties. Um, but Bruce Campbell has talked about how you make your own opportunities, you make your own, you produce your own stuff, and that gives you the opportunities to have the kind of roles that you want, which is one of the reasons why I have been writing short horror films. I actually wrote a feature-length horror film. That one's going to take forever to get funding because those ones those cost a lot of money.
I
But
understand that.
oh yeah, but that's why I have been spending time writing my own short horror films because I'm making opportunities for myself so that someday somebody else sees me and goes, "Oh, I've seen Rebecca, she's done this and I can do more stuff." I've never had the dream of being a blockbuster A-list actor. That's not up my alley. I'm much more into horror movies, like funny comedies, horror comedies. If I only worked in horror movies, B rated horror movies, C rated, D rated. What is D? I don't know, but you could put me in House Shark and I would be happy as long as I was just acting and doing what I want to do. So Bruce Campbell, he's a cool dude, very talented,
Oh
so
yeah.
funny. Oh gosh, he's just wonderful. I remember I first saw him in Congo, and that's funny because it's not even like his standard role, but I loved
Mhm.
that movie as a kid, and I just think he's wonderful in it. And then of course, Evil Dead. I mean, you
Mhm.
can't ignore that.
Uh,
He's funny.
for me, um I my first thing of knowing Bruce Campbell from is sign that I don't think most people's first thing is, and that's Burn Notice, a TV show from USA Network, and I grew up watching him in that at before I started watching any of the Evil Dead stuff.
Fair enough.
So it was but it was cool when I discovered like his horror stuff too, and I was like, and I just love that he's famous for as for very different things.
You know, he's very much like he's got like a cult following. He
Oh
does
yeah.
these little like cult classics, and I think that's wonderful. And he loves it. He loves that sort of cult following that he has, and he just really he like goes right into it. It's awesome. I would love to meet him someday. He seems like such a
So
cool dude.
I have not ever actually like have had a conversation with the guy, but I have seen him in person. I went to a Comic Con that on that he was and my mom actually was being a vendor at that Comic Con. It was really cool because he actually walked right in front of our booth, and my mom sells children's clothes, and she tried to get him to buy some children's clothes. So he was like, he said, sadly, none of my children are small enough anymore for that or that.
Aw, cute.
Uh,
That's awesome.
uh, so I think you basically answered this, but like, what is your favorite genre to actually act? Is it comedy? Is it horror? Or is it a mix of the two? Is it something else?
So, I love horror. I love being crazy. I'm very good at it. Then again, I do think that being acting crazy is an easier thing to do, like an easier emotion to portray than say more subtle emotions, but I love being crazy. I think it's fun. I was in a play. I was demon possessed once. That was amazing. I got to be um I did a stage production of Charlotte Perkins Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper. Are you familiar with that short story?
I think I've heard of it before, but I don't know the story. No.
It's considered one of like the first like feminist literature like for fiction. It's wonderful. It's a thriller. You can find it. It's public domain. You can find it online. Read it. I suggest everybody read it. It's phenomenal. It goes into how we treated women um in the 1800s, especially when it comes to medicine. Of course, I'm sure you've heard the term hysteria, like women are
Mhm.
hysterical. That was a kind of umbrella term for if if women had feelings, they're like, ah, she's hysterical. But this
Sadly.
particular, yeah, it's so sad. This
Mhm.
particular short story is about a woman with postpartum depression who her husband, who is a physician, puts her on rest cure, which was a normal thing to do. Basically, you're not supposed to do anything stimulating. You're not supposed to read, you're not supposed to write. You're just supposed to rest. And of course, what do we know about people who are depressed? And if you just put them in a room and tell them to sleep all day, do they get better? No, no, no,
Absolutely
they
not.
don't get better.
And
So in
especially, I imagine back at a time when they wouldn't have had people going to therapy or getting
Mhm,
medication,
exactly. Exactly. I mean, we can go back and
and
talk
they
about all the
called
way.
them witches.
Oh yeah, everybody was a witch. They lobotomized people. It was the Wild West. It was a wild time. And I mean, of course, women's health is still not where it needs to be. That is an entirely different conversation. The Yellow Wallpaper
Mhm.
is a thriller about this woman slowly going insane. It is very powerful. And I took that short story because it's public domain and I made a script out of it for a stage play. And I played the woman and I got to go insane on stage. It was wonderful. I was ripping wallpaper off because she does, and I was putting it in my mouth. I had blood capsules so that when I was biting the bed, like blood capsules were bursting. I'm covered in blood. I'm crawling around the floor. I'm like crazy. I'm talking like it was wonderful. I scared people. I made my family uncomfortable, and if I can make you uncomfortable with my acting, chef's kiss, I've done a good job. So I love that. And then on the opposite side, I love comedy. I'm I I'm like a silly little comedy person and I love doing comedic shows as well. Those are kind of the two. I haven't really been in any when I think about like plays I've been in, I haven't really been in any dramas. It's either like a thriller, horror, or comedy. Or I'm like, you put me in a drama, but you give me the comedic role. I have decent comedic timing. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I think I have pretty good comedic timing. But yeah, so either comedy or make me crazy, cover me in blood. I'm happy.
And sometimes that can also be comedy.
It sure can. Absolutely. That was me with the comedic role I had in the Christmas film. They I played a role of a butcher, and for whatever reason, they're like, yeah, this butcher just does not wash herself after she butchers things. So I'm like covered in fake blood half the time in this film, and I think it's funny. So it's like all of these like photos of me. I'm like cutesy with all covered in blood. People are like, "Oh, is it a horror movie?" I'm like, "No, it's a Christmas comedy."
So, that Christmas comedy, I is that something that you can share the title of so we can keep on the lookout for when it eventually comes out? Has it not been titled yet? Because you haven't mentioned the titles, and I don't want to
It
get you in trouble.
No, it's
Or
okay. It has a like a working title. So if you went to IMDb, you would see the working title. So they have it on IMDb, so I'm sure it's fine. The working title is Scruggs: A Christmas Carol. I'm sure they're
okay,
going to change it, but that's the working title for it right now. Um, but I have no idea when it'll come out. I'm assuming they're going to try to get it out for December, but they still haven't finished
Mhm.
principal photography. My character was wrapped, but I know that they at least have one or two more scenes left to film for that.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Um. Now, or like both horror and comedy. Do you have any particular kind of style that you like best of those? I was I'm pretty sure I've talked to you before on the Discord. Like with horror, I particularly like horror comedies, but over anything like serious. But and then like with comedy, I really a like most like raunchy comedies. Are there any like particular styles of either horror or
Mhm.
comedy that is what you really like?
So when I think about horror, I watch horror a lot. Of course, I have a horror TikTok channel, but when you watch horror all the time, it can affect your mental health depending on what subgenre of horror you're watching. So as much as I absolutely love psychological horror, and like that sort of like really serious, like that art house elevated horror, like Hereditary, I even enjoyed Long Legs. Like those films are absolutely wonderful, but if I watch too many of them and I'm not like in a good mood, it
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily make me feel better. So that's when I will move toward your horror comedies. Or if I'm just in a really awful mood, I put White Chicks on. I White Chicks is like my comfort movie. It's not even horror, but it is that sort of I guess if we're talking the type of comedy I like, it is the type of comedy that can't really be made today from like the early 2000s comedy, but that's because that's what I grew up with. So give me White Chicks, give me Accepted, The Benchwarmers, Dodgeball. I love that kind of stuff. I pretty
Nice.
much loved every comedy up until like I like the 21 and 22 Jump Street. Now comedy that comes out now, I'm not as fond of it. Um, I don't know. That's sort of yeah, that's sort of like almost like slapstick style of
Mhm.
that 2000s comedy. But then horror, I'll pretty much love all of it. My favorite
Okay.
subgenre would be When Animals Attack because I absolutely love shark movies. I am obsessed with sharks. I actually was going to be a marine biologist, except I had moral issues with dissecting animals when I was in high school, and I just refused to do it because I was a jerk. So I couldn't go to school for biology. So then I became an opera singer. Whatever. I figured that I would still be able to swim with sharks if I became an actor and a musician. So that's the way I went. And then I got scuba certified. I still haven't done any scuba diving with sharks, but like maybe someday.
Oh yeah. Nice. The next question, and this is a question that I was asked to ask you, which is,
Mhm.
so how did you get to be so amazing?
Oh, I was just born this way. Uh, I will say that my family's pretty rad. So my brother and sister were 11 and 13 when I was born. And so I watched whatever they watched. My brother was really into horror, so that's how I really got into horror. My parents are cool. Like I'm taking my parents to see Beetlejuice when it comes out. My parents are just these kind of um artsy people. Like I mean, in their jobs, no, neither of my parents have artsy people jobs, but in their in like they love film, and my mom loves to sew, and just they're just artsy like that, and my siblings are the same, and I think that it just made me feel completely okay with being whoever I wanted to be, pursuing whatever I wanted to pursue. When I told my parents I wanted to be an opera singer, they were like, "Okay, how do we do this?" And there was no conversation of, you won't be able to pay the bills as an opera singer. Like none of that happened. My parents were like, "Okay, how can we assist you in this? You want to be an actor? Sure. How can we assist you? Let me get up and drive you to auditions. I'll drive you to Toronto so that you're not exhausted and you can sleep in the car. And we'll go do Niagara on the Lake while you are acting." They've always been amazing. They come to every show I'm in. The only show I forbade them from coming to is Dominatrix on Trial.
I can understand that.
I didn't want, but you know what? Looking back, I was like, dang, I was just acting. I wish that they'd come because that was a 25-page monologue for me. And I loved every moment of it. And I wish they'd come to that. So hindsight's 2020.
Mhm.
But yeah, they're very supportive. And so it, it was a household where, sorry about that, my phone. It was a household where I was allowed to be who I wanted to be and express myself. And so that's why I'm so awesome, because my parents and my siblings were awesome.
All right. Well, I have one final question. It's another thing that someone asked me to bring up. I hear you hunt for asparagus. Is it for
I,
food or simply because you like hearing the cries of the families of asparagus as you shoot them dead?
ooh, ooh, I would say both. So in in my area, asparagus just grows wild in the ditches. So about like from May until the end of June, you just trudge through the ditches and you can get asparagus. So it's just this nice thing that I started doing it on live. And I also I would do my zombie apocalypse training videos where I would go for runs, and then if I saw asparagus, I would pick it up. I hurt my knees, so I haven't been able to continue my training for the half marathon. But once I feel better, I will continue that. But I just started, yeah, picking asparagus in TikTok videos and on live, and it became this thing. But it's so much more delicious than asparagus you buy at the store. It's much thicker and it just has a much nicer taste. And I'm actually going to be posting a video of asparagus soup I made with ditch asparagus.
Nice.
So yeah, it's just a fun thing to do. I love to garden, and also it's expensive to exist. So any food that I can forage, I'm gonna forage.
Makes sense.
Mm.
So, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before I end this off?
I can't think of anything. Just thank you so much. I appreciate this, like hanging out with me in the interview. And thank you so much for linking the Upstaged website. Because yeah, we're still in the fundraising process. Some of this is recoup. One of the most amazing things about Upstage was that these showrunners paid everybody, all of the actors, all of the crew. We were all paid. These were not volunteer positions. As an actor, you do so much, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for the real. I'm going to do it for the experience. And eventually you have to say that, okay, I have the experience. I need to be able to, I'm spending all my time here. I need to be making some money from this. And so that's one of the most wonderful things about this was that they're paying all of their artists, and that's huge.
Right.
So
And you have to like at some point be able to see like I am worth being paid. And that's
mhm.
something that I think a lot of people have trouble with.
It was a difficult thing for me. It's one of the reasons I stopped doing community theater, which is why I stopped doing a lot of musical theater, because in my area in particular, if you want to be in a musical, it's typically community theater. There's nothing wrong with that. I love community theater. It's just that for me now, because my time, I do so many things. I write, I run a theater company myself. I'm acting, I'm on TikTok. I have a muggle job where I work social media and things like that. I need to make sure that everything that I'm doing, it's I don't want to use the word worth my time, because of course acting is always worth my time, but I need it to be able I need it to be worth my bank account, because gas is expensive. Gas is expensive, and if I have to drive 45 minutes 3 times a week and be there for 3 hours each time, it adds up. And yeah, so it's just for me, I made that decision a couple of years ago, and it was hard. It limits you, but sometimes you have to do it, because I thought to myself, if I don't take myself seriously, why would anybody else?
Makes sense.
Mm.
That's well, I had a lot of fun talking to you. Everyone, please both look up Upstage Age and go on their website, donate if you can, and also check out Rebecca's his TikTok account. She posts awesome stuff on there. Either or search or it's either her at Rebecca Attack 16 or your resident spooky girl. All right. Thank you everyone for listening. If you like this gamma analysis, please give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and a 5-star rating on Spotify. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please let me know. If you'd like to listen more from me, please subscribe. Many more gamma analysis from me coming, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Master John, signing off.